So we are still in Kariunga, like the way I said that. Karioga, is that how you pronounce it? In Nanyuki, and I mean, to be honest, I've been to different places to kind of just see how land is being sold by all kinds of people. And you do it differently in the sense that you go over and beyond based on what I've seen. I could be wrong, by the way. And so I just want to understand, what are some of those things that you put in place that are just uniquely Goshen, you know, that you will not find anywhere else? Maybe you can just tell us a few things. Yeah.
Well, there's most of it is kind of under the radar. You wouldn't know unless you asked, or we overtly mentioned it.
Okay.
And that has to do with the documentation and the due process. Things like attending the actual land control board hearing, being included in the minutes, and having receipts of payment to prove that we actually attended the board hearing, which a lot of people in the industry do not. They do the illegal special board hearing, and I've done episodes on that, and I'll be doing more and providing documents as well for people to reference. But a lot of that, you know, is kind of behind the scenes, and people don't get to appreciate what that's all about, because they assume because there's a title deed then everything is kosher. But there's a thick stack of documents that gives life or gives birth to the title deed that are more important than the title deed, that we really focus on making sure we have produced the right way. So that's one. But, you know, more visibly on the ground, from the very beginning, based on my experience visiting different people's sites, issues around accessibility, access roads, the width of the access road, you know, so it was common sense to me that at some point in the future, as development progresses, Kenya Power will come up and put up power lines on the public access, because that's what normally happens. You know, the municipality or county council might come and do drainage for sewer and wastewater management type of stuff, and that eats into your road surface. So if you haven't provided enough width, eventually you have the same situation we see in less desirable places, you know, what we would actually in fact call slums, where you can't have two vehicles on the road at the same time. You have to wait for your neighbor to pass before you can, you know, exit. And so we were very clear about that in the beginning, found out what the government requires in general for freehold lands, farmlands. Depending on the density or fragmentation or subdivided plots, you're not supposed to have anything smaller than 9 meters in width.
That's the size of the road?
Yes, that's fact. 9 meters minimum for freehold land, agricultural use. Depending on how many fragments you're creating in the subdivision, they may require you to have at least 15 meters.
15?
Yeah, in some cases 12, in some cases 15 meters wide. Right, so if a buyer like yourself comes and doesn't know this, and you're looking at a piece of property, there's maybe 50, 60, 100 plots subdivided from a giant piece, and the meterage on the road is 6 or 4, in some cases 4.5. I've seen 4.5 meter wide roads.
That's quite small.
There's actually a company not too far from here, about 3 kilometers behind us, was selling plots, and the roads were 4.5 meters wide. No value for you as a buyer in the future, right? So things like those we absolutely don't compromise on. The smallest access road we have is 12 meters. The government requires us to do 9 meters. We give up an extra 3 meters in width. Depending on the length of our parcel, in some cases we're giving up acres and acres of land for access, which we can't sell or use.
So I saw that. So like our drive here, all of that was land that you purchased, but you have hived off and graded so that then we could actually have access to the different
so you know, there are pre-existing access roads in many cases in areas like these where development has not taken root yet. The roads only exist on plans. So on the surface you'll find bushes and obstructions, and accessibility is a bit iffy. We will invest ourselves to clear the access, the pre-existing public access, and we'll clear enough to allow for people to, you know, get to and from their properties without any issues. Beyond that, from those public access roads into our properties, based on our own subdivision schemes, we do minimum 12 meters wide, and we'll grade and compact. In some cases, we'll do maram as well, just to make sure that even when it's raining and wet, you have unfettered access to the property. And so that's one of the main things that we invest in. The other obvious one is our beacons. We do 6 foot tall. They're actually about half an inch taller than I am.
What?
I'm 5'11" and a half, although I like to tell people I'm 6 foot tall. So they're 6 foot tall, 10-inch in diameters.
Wow.
Yeah, and they have steel reinforcement within, and they're planted in the ground 3 feet. So half of it will be sunken in the ground and set in concrete. Half of it will stick out of the ground with the title number clearly inscribed on the top surface.
Nice.
As well as our logo, so there's no confusion about who owns which parcel. And this way you're not killing 2 hours in some cases.
Yeah, looking
for those
where's the beacon?
pancake beacons in the bushes, right?
Yeah, I think we saw one just down the road. Yeah.
So that's a heavy investment for us. We have them fabricated off of site and we bring them to the site, and those ensure that there's clear demarcation of boundaries, avoids encroachment in the long term, especially in the cases where you're not an owner occupier, you're an absentee owner, meaning you own the property but reside elsewhere. The last thing you want is to come and look at your property later and find people have encroached or settled or squatted on your property, and those are highly effective in letting people know that there is a presence here. You can just come and do what you want. They weigh 200 kilos in between 160 200 kilos
each.
Yeah, they're impossible to move unless you're coming with a bulldozer.
And so do buyers pay for that, or how does that work?
No, that's a cost we absorb as a company in advance, and we sell you the parcel of land. Obviously, we're making a profit. That's what we're in business for. Anyone who tells you otherwise is lying. But that's a cost we account for in the process of providing these subdivided plots of land that we then sell.
Very nice. All right, so with all that added value, remind me, how much are you selling your plots for? You said they're 1 acre.
Yes, our 1 acre parcels are currently selling for only 1.89 million shillings each. There's only 6 of them left. Quite a number have already sold. And that's always relative to something. We're 500 meters from the proposed golf course and country homes estate.
Are we?
Yeah.
For real?
Yeah, it's 500 meters that way.
Nice.
They sold in as early as 2014. They sold half-acre parcels for 3.5 million shillings each.
Wow.
So there is some reference there in terms of what value you're getting. We also have a neighbor not too far from here, about 600 meters to our left, who sold 1 acre parcels for 2.4 million shillings each.
Transaction has already taken place.
Yes.
So if somebody's buying the land here, they're getting it at a discount.
Yeah, so there is value there. There are also some families out here sitting on the original unsubdivided parcels who will sell you at even as low as 1 million shillings per acre if you're buying 5 to 10 acres at a time, which are obviously cheaper. So it's simply a question of what product are you getting, are the documents in order, do you trust the process, and those are some of the factors that are relevant in our country. The gentleman who sold 1 acre parcels for 2.4 million shillings each happens to be a friend of mine. He's in the business as well. His customers don't trust me enough to pay me 1.89 million. They'd rather pay him 2.4 because they know who to hold accountable. That's a sad situation with property investments in Kenya because of all the fraud and the opacity in the due processes. And so there is no, in places like these especially, there is no general valuation that one can rely on. You simply have to make the assessment on your own based on what's going on in the area, what impact that will have on your property in the long term, what value addition has been made to the property already. And there are some general trends that one can use, but that's how we arrive at our prices.
Thanks so much. This is fantastic, Solomon. It's really, really informative stuff. And I forgot to mention that Solomon is actually a fellow YouTuber. He runs a channel called Land own land in Kenya, and it's a great channel with so much information. I would encourage you to actually log on YouTube, on Facebook, and just have a look at what he is doing and some of the information that is there that you would not even get anywhere else. So stay well. You are watching All Access. This is Rina Hicks with Solomon Wangui. God bless.